Have you ever wondered what public safety could look like if we reimagined it from the ground up? Watch Reimagining Safety, a powerful documentary that explores solutions rooted in dignity, care, and justice. Visit reimaginingsafetymovie.com and join the movement to build a safer, more equitable future for everyone.
How are political content creators going to continue to influence and educate and motivate and inspire people to move in the direction of positive social change, especially with the incoming administration? We're going to talk about all of that and more on today's episode of Conversations for the People. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations for the People with Matthew Solomon. I'm Matthew Solomon, and I'm so excited to have Saadia Mirza on the show today. Saadia is a content creator, an educator, a friend, a collaborator, somebody who's really dedicated the last several years of her life to informing people and motivating people and inspiring people in the direction of positive social change, building community, and bringing folks together. So, with that, please welcome to the show, Saadia Mirza. All right, Saadia Mirza, thank you for being here. Welcome to Conversations for the People.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's so great. And this is actually the my first podcast recording of 2025. And I'm excited to have you on because we met in like the political spheres on social media, and I was trying to remember. I think I've been following you for probably a couple years at this point, and you graciously followed me back, and so I've had the pleasure and honor of meeting you in person when you travel to LA. And so, first of all, I know you're super busy, so thank you for your time and thank you for your work. And again, it's just great to have you.
Thank you. I'm more of like just a collection of people's ideas. It's people like you that come up with the ideas, you putting out the actual work. So thank you for like doing the actual heavy lifting. So thank you.
Well, thanks. And like it's funny because the heavy lifting, like I look at what you do, and so you produce a lot of content, a lot of videos. We were talking about this before when I first started following you, like it was all political commentary and very funny and witty. And over, the last year or so, it's definitely changed. Like there's that sarcasm and the like, what the F. But I'm curious if that's been intentional or what your thoughts are on kind of the evolution of what you've been doing.
I mean, I started it kind of as a joke during COVID. Like I got TikTok because I was just so sick of looking at no, I love my parents, but it was either look at my mom or my dad or the wall. And so 2 weeks in, I was like, let me see what this TikTok thing is. And originally my Instagram, if you go far back enough, actually, it's all my personal like pictures with my friends and stuff. And it started off as a joke because I was just in my room. We were in the thick of COVID. There was nothing else going on. And it created a community which I loved. And I think as, I moved over to Instagram and we started having more conversations, it continued to be comedy because that's just what I felt, in the moment. And ever since the live streams out of Gaza, um, something in my heart, and I've always spoken up for Gaza, but you've never seen it in the palm of your hand. And I've never been readily in touch with people in Gaza. And that's changed my entire life. Like to see it, a live feed of people just, I could never imagine in my worst nightmares. And I feel like my heart changed with that. And my comedy has become more like, we're done laughing, right? Like, are we done laughing? Like, let's do something. And now you see where we are. And it's just not a good sign right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it is, that was and has been such a turning point, even like with my film doing screenings and traveling, the conversation very quickly turned because, reimagining safety is about policing and incarceration. And there's such an overlap with, the genocide in Gaza and how the IOF, the Israeli occupation forces, train police here. And what I noticed pretty immediately was that there was such a split, even in social justice organizations, where everything became so divided. And I'm Jewish. I'm not Zionist, but I'm Jewish, and so it was very disorienting uh, for a while. Like there's still part of it lingering, and I know like you've been part of like the group of influencers that went to the White House and all of that, and I'm curious what you've noticed about that or what you experienced in through the course of that.
For sure. And just to be clear, the White House visit, we were the first batch that got to go. We had no idea what was going on. It was the most private, intimate experience that I could have imagined. It was only like maybe 20, 30 of us. And it was like we were just given the keys to the White House, go in and look around and, let's watch the screening, let's make content. And this was before October 7th. This was, I believe, in March or May of 2023.
Mm, mhm,
And I've never called myself a Democrat. I just, as we see now, I've always had a problem with Democrats just always talking about decorum and dotting their I's and crossing their T's and not actually getting things done. And I've always been further left than that, I feel. But I will vote for them because they're the tool that I have to get closest to my ideologies one step at a time. So from there, we were kept in constant contact with, we were given a digital coordinator, we were given constant contact, Zoom links, things like that were coming out right after October 7th. And this, like you and I have known that this is, if you've known about Palestine for a long time and what's going on in Gaza and what the IOF has been doing over the years, this is not the first time that I've spoken up. This has been going on for years. Originally, I was pro-Israel. When I grew up, I was a Republican, pro-Israel. So it left me, like you said, in that weird lurch. I'm agnostic, so it didn't have to really challenge my faith, but I was in a weird spot too. And so right after October 7th, I noticed all of a sudden all the communication stopped. There was crickets
mm.
from the administration. And it wasn't just me. There was other creators there too. I'm sure you've seen Nurse Lex on my page and a few others that we've consciously, we're good friends. We both live like 20 minutes away from each other here. We should hang out more, but we noticed a complete just block of communication. I noticed a lot of people started calling me the T word again, and I was in high school during 9/11, so I'm very used to that. But that break this time felt like a seismic quake of a 9 versus a 4 as before.
Mhm.
And I think over the last year, I think that's also what's hardened my humor is just like I can't believe people are just going around. We're all on social media. You're just going around pretending like these things are not happening or you don't value certain life. Um, I don't know if that answered your question. I went off on a tangent, but that's where it started. The lighthearted, like, oh, cool, White House, this, that, to
Yeah.
like, what are we doing? That's I guess that's also what's changed the content.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't talked about this, but even like New Year's Eve, I the last few years, I don't watch CNN, but the last few years, like Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen, they do this New Year's Eve thing where they do shots and it's funny and they get drunk and whatever. And I was watching it and like them and the musical guests and the actors and all the people that show up and people talking about, oh, my New Year's resolution is to leave negativity behind and only focus on the positive. And I'm like, how? Like, how are you all doing this? And how are we all participating in this and celebrating as if, this genocide isn't happening and these horrible, horrific things aren't happening? And I got super depressed like New Year's Eve. And it took me, a couple days really to kind of get back into being more in balance, and I felt like I went for a walk New Year's Day and it was just like, oh, I feel like I'm in a totally different timeline, totally
Yeah.
different experience. And so like what you were sharing, it's like, yeah, it was all kind of lighthearted and, and this is, we're doing this thing and it's all fun. And then it got serious and then the support went away. right? I mean, that's what it sounds like. The communication stopped.
And then they tried reaching out again, like right around election time, and I was just like, wait a minute. Okay, like I just felt, and they're like, I don't want to speak badly about anybody that was in contact with me because they had good intentions. But what was the overall use of the creators to be in touch with them and to use them as a pulse and to have them take photos and create content? Was it just for a photo op? That's literally, I felt like the brown girl that you took the photo op with, and
Mm.
that felt like pretty shit. And I know a lot of people got on me because Biden at one point was standing. He came back from the SOTU, and we were standing outside. We were told to stand on the staircase. I already knew that that meant that he was going to come around because they were like, don't like rush him, nothing, just stand here, kind of like giving us like basically basic decorum.
Mhm.
When he came up, he was like literally like right here in front of me. Like I could smell his cologne. And he held out his hand to shake people's hand, and it was right in front of me. And I remember I just, instead of putting my hand there, I just pushed up my camera a little bit more because I already know, even though I voted for him, even though I supported his campaign, I already know what type of person he is. You are a means to getting closer to further away from fascism and closer, hopefully, to the next candidate that he was only supposed to be a one-round president,
Mhm.
anyways. And I got a lot of flack for that. And now people understand that just because you vote for a certain politician, or I hope they understand, or that you find the lesser evil doesn't mean that you're wrong. I hope the people that were sitting there talking about, lesser evils, we got to pick one of the two.
Mhm.
We really fucked it up. Excuse me if I can't cuss
No, you
this
can
time.
guess. Yeah, go.
But
Yeah.
now my devastation is worrying about not only Gaza, but ourselves. I always compare it to 5 houses on fire. We had the opportunity to keep 3 houses, take out the fire out of 3 houses and save 2 whole houses. And now all 5 houses are on fire. And my fear is that that was that was the end right there, because now he's picked my Huckabee that won't even acknowledge Palestinians. Now we've got the LGBTQIA plus community. We've got so many communities that are like right in the path of this bulldozer. And it's a little overwhelming right now because I cannot believe that we are in this position.
Yeah. Yeah. And we started to talk about this before. So we're recording this on January 7th. So yesterday was January 6th. Um, this morning Trump gave a long rambling press conference where he was talking about Jack Smith's purple robe and the windmills. There's 200 of them they're trying to build in New Jersey that you can't bury them because they're so big. Um, Jimmy Carter sold the Panama Canal for $1, and we're going to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America because that's a beautiful name,
Oh, and
among other things. What's that?
not the faucets, the faucets and the water
Oh, the
just
faucet,
dripping
the
like
drip,
rain.
drip, drip.
God damn it. I cannot believe we're in this position. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what we're gonna have to report on for the next 20,000 years, because I don't see ending, this reign ending anytime soon.
yeah, yeah. I know. Like, yeah, we were saying, like, people talk about, oh, we just got to get through the next 4 years, and it's not that, and the courts are not that. Like, there was a legal expert. I listened to the New Abnormal, which is another podcast, and there was a legal expert who was saying, like, no, next 50 to 70 years at least, in the legal world, like the Supreme Court, the circuit courts, and all of that. That's what is ahead of us. And we were saying, like, when we got on, like, oh, it's already exhausting. On day 7, he hasn't even taken office yet, and so I'm curious, um, like, what is your approach, or how do you see, like, are you with your work? Is it education? Is it moving people? Is it commentary? It seems to be all of that. And I'm curious if you have like specific, goals or intentions in mind with what you do.
Yeah, and usually there is a goal set at some point. Like the first time around was we got to get Trump out, because that's when we all started using social media and Twitter. And God knows, I haven't used Twitter since Elon
Yeah.
Musk bought it. So we were using the social medias for that. Then, you continue messaging on things that are important. Then it switched definitely to Gaza, because I thought we had a chance to convince the current administration that this is wrong. Of course, keeping everybody you know, in touch with like everything else that's going on here, things that need attention, climate action. And now, what is the new goal? I don't know how we organize right now. I don't know how we do that with all three branches under Republican control. I mean, even in North Carolina, they're today, I think it was last night, they're not going to confirm the new Supreme Court justice over there. They're basically just the GOP is just stealing elections and just swaying them the way they want to. I don't know what the goal at this point is. Like, I'm not trying to be like negative or anything like that, but honestly, the goal right now is just to keep you guys informed, keep everybody informed. And when we have a plan of action, of course, I will do that. For Gaza right now, I don't work with any organizations. I work with directly vetted families, so you'll see them collaborated on my page. We already know what's going on there. The families that followed the page, I know that they see the content as well, and I don't want them to continue to see negative content. So I've told them, give me, collab me with your videos, show what's going on, what you're doing. And I'm just trying to keep them as comfortable as possible. Hopefully this thing will end for them in the best way possible. But the outlook is looking grim there too. So I'm just running on fumes at
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do except share information at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I mean, information and, knowledge and just, you know, creating those collaborations and coalitions, like after the election, so I've been in 46 different cities in the last 2 years. And I was talking to organizers who, were the whole spectrum, and like hardcore, like in the streets organizers who, some of them were like, I don't know what to do. And others were like, we're just going to keep doing what we've been doing. And then, all the folks in between. And it seems like, because we, not that a lot of us were able to really rely on those systems anyway, right? I mean, we saw uh, how anti-genocide protesters on college campuses were treated by the Biden administration,
Right.
and how that was supported by, Harris and Walz and all of that. Um, but it seems to me like, what are the ways that how much can we divest and create community and rely on each other? Because yeah, like we don't, like all three branches, local government, like even here in California, um as quote like liberal as it's supposed to be, like we couldn't take indentured servitude out of the Constitution. We couldn't raise the minimum wage to $18 an hour. There was one other, there were misdemeanors that became felonies.
Yeah.
So even though California went for Harris, there's still, which also, I know I'm jumping around a little bit too. Like in 2008, when Obama was elected, like California overwhelmingly voted for Obama, but then voted for Prop 8, which was, um, stating that marriage is only between a man and a woman. So for, I don't know, almost 10 years now, I my math skills since COVID are not great, but it's been like the hypocrisy, or it's liberalism, which is still upholding the system and is not really progressive and is not really left, like you were saying. Like you're more to the left, I'm more to the left for sure. And then it all comes back to, well, do we really care about each other or not? Or is it just like we care about like our people, but not those people?
What about a caveat that the majority of the voting bloc that shows up for these and understands these amendments and things and how they affect us is that older generation that is more conservative? I would say I was really hoping for the youth to turn out. And I just, according to the numbers that I see, which is really weird because then you also look at the footage. I'm not an election denier. I know people throw that word a lot around a lot, but there is a disparity in what we saw. I saw it here in Texas, polling places you could go in and come out of first day, early voting all the way through the end. halfway through, people were still wrapped around buildings here. And we live in the thick of Texas where last time around when Trump ran in 2016, it was Trump mania. It was Trump flags, banners. I had a bad feeling then because I was like, this looks, you have to go really far out, like in the boonies of Texas. Like if you're maybe on the way from here to Austin, maybe halfway through Columbus area and stuff, you'll start seeing those signs. But it wasn't like that this time. So I wonder what the disparity is. Like you're saying, I don't, in my heart of hearts, I don't maybe want to believe that people are this backwards. I don't want to believe that people would sit there and not want other people to earn more. Like I just, something just doesn't feel right. And I can't put my finger on it. And maybe it is me having to come to grips with the fact that people aren't as progressive as I would hope that they would be in 2025.
Hmm. Yeah, that is interesting because I had similar thoughts. Like, um, 2016 was a big shock, for lack of a better word, right? It's like I didn't really like I didn't think in a million years that
Yeah.
the country would vote Trump in, knowing who he is, and all of those things. And it's like, okay, so in looking back on that, you know, 2020, 2024, like there was always that, like there, you don't know, you just don't know until it happens, and it could absolutely go his way. And in 2020, I remember going to bed that night thinking, oh, we're doomed, there's another 4 years coming.
Yeah.
And then things turned around, as more votes came in and
Yeah.
all of that. And like you, and so like in this last election, the whole time I'm like, well, this is kind of how it went in 2020. This is how
Same.
it went. And like watching, like outside the polling places, it's like you got Paul
Yeah.
Rudd, handing out donuts and water and stuff. And so, yeah, there was more like, yeah, we're not doing this again, especially after an insurrection and the court cases and the documents and all of that. And
Russia said the day after, you owe us one. We helped you win.
yeah.
Like, and he knows that he owes us, like on Russian state television. Then they showed his wife's nudes. That's like, that's a power play. That's
Yeah.
like, why show that? If she is the first lady and you respect her, like that was part of her career, sure. They purposefully picked that to embarrass him and embarrass her. And it's just like, that's why I have a really tough time grappling with all this. That's why I'm like, where is the DOJ? Where is the CIA? There was no contesting anything yesterday on January 6th from the
Hmm.
Dem. I hopefully it might in like I there's like a shred of hope in my back of my head. Maybe they're like not wanting to get, taken out by the mob. Maybe this is maybe these other three-letter agencies have to step in. I can't believe they're feeding us to the wolves. Like that's what it feels like right now. Because if anybody should be scared, it should be Biden, Hillary, Obama, anybody
Hmm.
that has them to their name. Like, good luck. I don't know what to tell you. They're gonna come after you before they get to the rest of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was something very surreal about like these folks that 4 years ago were almost murdered, you know,
Yeah.
having to then confirm this election of the guy that sent the mob that tried to murder them after, like, presenting all this evidence after, impeachment trial and the January 6th committee
Uh,
and like all of that. And then to be aware that all of that could get erased. Like there's that George Orwell quote that Rage Against the Machine quotes, it's like he who controls the past controls the future, and who controls the present controls the past. And we're seeing all of it like play out and the attempts for all of it. And it really is like, um not even what do we do, but how to, like growing up with, you know, the truth will always prevail, the good guys always win in the end, like all of these idealized things. And it's like, maybe not. And I don't
maybe it is
know.
Hunger Games.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe that was the real story time we needed every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't get it. How do we let somebody, I mean, it's just so much. He literally said, "Can we need to retroactively make me president since November 5th." The guy has done something.
Yeah.
We don't know what. And now we're just laying down and taking it. And it's going to make so many people never come out to vote again. And that was their goal, and they got it.
Hmm.
People feel disenfranchised. People have messaged me and they're like, "Why did we do all of this work? What are we gonna, there's nothing that we can do next." They're not even letting, what's going on in North Carolina, this, that. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what to tell them right now. I don't know what to tell anybody right now. I used to say, like, the justice system will work out for us in some way. It doesn't work out for us 90% of the time. But when it comes to making sure the money is in the right places, we're talking about attacking Greenland. We're talking
Yeah.
about our allies. Like, if France is doing more about this election interference, like Elon, they've said, we're going to freeze your assets because nobody else is going to do it. France is doing it more about it than the supposedly the number one country in the world for freedom and all of that. It's very overwhelming right now. I don't have answers, and my fear for the rest of the world is actually a little bit greater than even just for our own country.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And there was, I want to, um, before we move on to this last part, Trump did make that statement in the press conference today that if, the Israeli hostages aren't returned, that all hell is going to break loose, as if all hell hasn't broken loose already.
Exactly.
And yeah, you're talking about like the fear for the rest of the world. Like, yeah, I share that
Yeah.
with you.
But he was saying that before. That's the thing.
Hmm.
Like, people were, I feel so bad for the Palestinians that are going to have to deal with this. I have no sympathy for any religious leader here, any Muslim leader here that went out of their way. The Pakistani Association, I believe, of Michigan and a few other places. You went out and you told your congregations to vote for Trump. I will never forgive you for that. You knew who he was. It would be different if you were 18 years old, your frontal lobe is not developed. If you are at least 25 years old, you have been through this rodeo once. You have heard him talk against your communities. And here you think that all of a sudden you are the exception. You are the ones that signed those death certificates. That's my frustration, is that you wanted to abstain from voting, you wanted to vote third party, totally different story. I'm not going to say anything on that.
Hmm.
But if you went out of your way to support someone that has been saying this is on you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so moving forward, I know you have a podcast that's going to be coming out, and you were sharing a little bit about how your approach is going to be. So I'd love for you to share, with with my folks what you're going to be working on.
Sure, it's kind of like, it's not as I don't want it to be as super politically saturated as my page. I kind of wanted to make it like not only political commentary, but relating it to things that I've been through, because it feels like we're in a narcissistic relationship. It's not feels like, we are in a narcissistic
Mm.
relationship with this president-elect that's coming in again. For those of us that have survived narcissistic abuse, we're literally watching us go back to our ex. And I think a lot of people have not been in that position. So using some things that I've been through, some of the history that I've lived, some of the things that I've encountered over the last, and wonderful people such as yourselves, how you've impacted things, having guests on. It's going to be more about that. And it's called Nobody's Superman. And it comes from my ex, who used to tell me that all this work that I was doing was basically, I got rid of him 10 years ago, but not got rid of him in like a kind of
Yeah,
way, but
there
like
we go.
he's gone. But he used to say that I do all this political work and I'm always trying to make videos. I wasn't in front of the camera then. For what? He said, "You're nobody's Superman." He would always tell me that. And I think it was so that people like me wouldn't speak up. People that share our views don't speak up. And when I met my now husband, I told him that. I was like, he's like, "You should do this. You should make videos, this, that." My husband was pushing for me to do that. And I was like, "Well, my ex told me I'm nobody's Superman. I'm not looking to be anybody's Superman." He's like, "Well, you're not. You're everybody's Superwoman."
Mm.
Like, he validated that just because one person sees you in one way, that your voice doesn't matter, doesn't mean that other people won't. And it kind of negated that saying that has been sitting in the back of my mind for so long. And I don't want people in this moment to feel like that. I don't want people to feel like this guy has told you that you are going to be basically his pawn. And that's kind of where I'm going with this. And I don't know if it's just going to be me rambling. I don't know. I have a YouTube channel. I used to do like haunted house reviews back then. I still go to haunted houses, but as you know, that's what we were
Oh,
out there
that's
for.
right. Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah.
So that's there, but I'm going to be converting it. It's at Saadia M. There's no underscores or anything. So I'll be putting it on YouTube. I'll be putting pieces of it on my Instagram. And if we don't ban TikTok, then it'll be on TikTok as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's awesome. I love that, and I love that um it's something like you're that because we're like in my conflict resolution work, like I'm always like, okay, we're in relationship with everyone and everything.
yeah,
And so if we want to heal something, if we want to change something or transform something, we have to look at our relationship to that person or to that environment or community or whatever it is. And having been um, having been in relationships with several narcissists myself, like I didn't, it was always a term that I was like, oh, that's just a term that gets thrown around. And it does get thrown around.
yeah,
But then I dated somebody who literally told me that she was what's the word? Like clinically, like she's like, I am a narcissist. Like
yeah,
this has it's a diagnosis. I have been diagnosed. And I was like, yeah, sure, yeah, whatever, it's a term. And then things played out. And then I started to like really investigate and learn, and I
yeah,
worked with a therapist who specialized in people who had been victims of narcissists, and then it was like a light bulb went off and everything made sense. And you know what what I was taught through that is the best thing to do with a narcissist is to not engage. But then
yeah,
how do you not engage when it's the president of the United States
right.
and his cronies and all these other folks, and the like all the layers of narcissism, right? Because it's not just the presidency, it's the media,
Yeah.
it's the like billionaires, and it's like all around us. And so I'm really grateful for having that framework and understanding, but then it's also challenging because like we can't just not engage.
We won't have to because one of the best thing about that I think we've learned about narcissism is that two narcissists can't exist in the same area. Almost every single person that's around him, every oligarch,
Hmm.
Bonnie and Musk, they're all narcissists that want their moment. And the second they step up to do their own thing, they're going to get quashed and it's going to go back and forth. And that is my only hope for the next 2 years until we get to the midterms is that they get nothing done because of their egos. They will start off strong together. I think that first, like maybe 10% of things that he wants to get done probably get done. But then the infighting that we're already seeing, like, with the H-1B visas and
Hmm.
Elon and Trump being like, we love exploiting workers. We love using this to exploit workers. And MAGA's like, you're not racist enough for us anymore. What the hell? So, like, I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think, unfortunately, what we saw in New Orleans and Las Vegas, where the military is starting to do things, go rogue. We have some of these. Like I said, 2025 is a year for me and my family to be in the house. I do not want to be out there in the mix. And I hope that
Hmm.
you stay safe. And I hope that everybody stays safe and know that you are not alone and that we are in these communities and making these spaces together. And, even if you're feeling isolated where you live, just like I feel like in Texas,
Hmm.
I have found such great companionship with people like you and other creators and other people that have been putting their voices out there. And I appreciate every single one of you, especially you, for what you do.
Hmm. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and just you know, I was going to save this for the end, but yeah, in this capitalist society, even folks with the best intentions of creating platforms and all of that can fall into those traps of, oh, I got to protect mine. And you're somebody who's been so gracious. Like, you were like, yeah, just tag me as a collaborator on stuff for your film and all of that. And so I really appreciate that about you. And it is something that's been rare for, in my experience. So thank you for all the work that you're doing and for your friendship and just being in community and all of that. So thank you.
Of course, and it's going to be a long 36,000 years, but I'm a text message away. So thank you. And I hope by the time we see this, I hope there's some better news. I don't
Yeah,
know.
right. Right.
Future us, is there better news or should we
Yeah.
just go back to the better days and replay this? Oh,
Yeah. Where can people find you?
Instagram, Saadia ___ M, because somebody took my actual name. So it's that on Instagram, TikTok, if it's still here when this airs, and Saadia M all together, SAADIAM on YouTube.
Okay, awesome. We'll put all that in the show notes. Saadia, thank you again. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you once again for watching and listening. Please like, subscribe, share, leave a review, do all the things. Big thank you to Saadia Mirza for taking time out of her day. And make sure you follow her. We'll put all of her information in the show notes. And check out Reimagining Safety at reimaginingsafetymovie.com. We have more than 70 screenings under our belts. Community screenings are going to continue through 2025. So make sure you subscribe at reimaginingsafetymovie.com for updates. Follow us on Instagram. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Conversations for the People. All power to the people.